or say something, and we know we're experiencing that same kind of dimension. And
Yes.
it doesn't matter, to me, it doesn't matter whether that's one or what. We're sharing an experience in a very intimate way.
Yeah.
I know it from deep within me. You know it from deep within you. And it's, where that is located is almost irrelevant, except then there's our smiling faces. This gets back to the relationality, which is why I think this is such an interesting question, Jonas, now that I think about it, because you're talking about an experience of this depth, which may be not individual, beyond the individual. And yet, how do we share in that from our respective?
No, I'm right with you. I like, and with the intuition, intuition involves the whole body too. In other words, I could feel your anxiety in my gut, even though my mind doesn't have language for it yet, but something's going on here. And so that the harmonization of feelings, it doesn't matter if they're positive or negative. And where I felt that sense of oneness was on Wednesday in the group here at the Empty Bell, when David described the bomb of anxiety. He and I were talking about this before you came. And, I was wondering, like, oh, what are, it's just a question of like, oh, wow, that's, some people might get anxious in their guts about him feeling anxious and, but then I thought, well, how to handle that. So, I made a joke out of it, like, and David handled it fine himself, but like it dissolved, the anxiety dissolved. But I thought, wow, this is like over the edge. This is like, there are a lot of people who are not going to understand this, but maybe they'll understand it better if I add a little buffer. And the buffer was, David, you are a really strange person. Just like I'm softening the environment with a little humor,
Yeah.
That's, Jonas, that's wonderful. I remember that exchange. And of course, I related completely to what David, I was relating to what you said, like that makes sense. But Jonas, it's interesting that that's another, that's your role. And I love how you are able to do that role at the Empty Bell, where you're intuitively sensitive, I think, not just conceptually, you're intuitively sensitive to what might be landing in weird ways for some people that they couldn't quite digest. That's a tall order, actually. I honor you for because you're also sharing in the beauty of what Dave is offering. Like, you're not just standing apart. I don't get the feeling you're a participant, yet there's a part of you that's sort of shepherding us together and looking out for every sheep in the flock, so to speak, and wanting them to sort of be able to relate too. And that's happening. And I sense how that's happening on an intuitive level too.
Yes. Thank you. And also, Bob, underneath it was when my response is like, so for me, really rich. It covered a lot of territory. Was saying to David, it was another way of saying to David, I love you.
Yeah.
I know, because you knew that it wouldn't be something that would bother me,
right?
For you to say that. In fact, and as I was saying, Bob, before you were on the call, I said, yes, I am strange. I'm very strange. And in fact, it's taken 65 years to get this strange. It's not easy. It's been a lifetime work.
Yes.
And you knew that I wouldn't, I think you knew I would just delight in you saying that.
Yes. Well,
that's why I'm glad you shared that, David, because if we're just, in a sense, and I'm not saying you were doing this, pontificating or extolling the joys of oneness and happiness and the essential joy of being and so on, if your life is going well, it sounds like, well, easy for you to say, someone might say, I'm fraught with anxiety. I'm fraught with, and to acknowledge, like, yes, I am too. That comes up in all sorts of ways in my life, but that too can be included in this. That doesn't exclude me from accessing something deeper and truer, even in the midst of that. That's a powerful testimonial, because you're not just saying, well, my life is good and I found like true happiness, and doesn't it suck to be you with all your anxiety? It's like, instead, it's like, no, I'm fraught with that too, but that's not the last word on my experience.
Yeah, and Bob, that's the underlying teaching that David offered on Wednesday, I thought. Underlying, some people may have gotten that. Maybe not everybody, maybe people needed